Fort Casey is a historic military fort located on Whidbey Island in Washington State. I've been coming here since I was a child, and it was a great place to explore and let my childhood imagination run wild. I still love coming here. Fort Casey was built in the late 1800s as part of the Triangle of Fire, along with Fort Flagler and Fort Worden, as a critical component for the defense of Puget Sound. Construction on Fort Casey began in 1897. Interestingly, good cement was in short supply in the United States, so it was imported from Antwerp, Belgium. So, all the construction you see here is thanks to the Belgians. The big guns were mounted on disappearing carriages, which could be raised out of their protective emplacements, so the guns were exposed only long enough to fire. When completed, Fort Casey had 34 artillery pieces sitting atop Admiralty Head, approximately 100 feet above sea level. It had 6 10-inch disappearing guns, 6 6-inch disappearing guns, 2 5-inch pedestal guns, 4 3-inch pedestal guns, and 16 12-inch mortars, making for a formidable deterrent to any hostile ships entering the Puget Sound. Within 20 years, Fort Casey was the 4th largest military post in Washington, housing 10 officers and 428 enlisted men. However, the fort's batteries became obsolete almost as soon as their construction was completed. The invention of the airplane in 1903 and the subsequent development of military aircraft made the fort vulnerable to air attack. In addition, the development of battleships designed with increasingly accurate weaponry transformed the static strategies of the 19th century into the more mobile attack systems of the 20th century. Most of Fort Casey's guns and mortars were removed during World War I, when they were mounted on rail cars to serve as mobile heavy artillery. During World War II, the Army reactivated Fort Casey as an induction center and troop training facility, and the fort's gun emplacements were rearmed with anti-aircraft guns. On June 30th, 1953, Fort Casey was officially deactivated. In 1955, Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission acquired 100 acres of Fort Casey's Battery area for use as a state park and historical monument. Seattle Pacific University purchased 87 acres, which included most of the fort's administrative buildings and housing, to create the Camp Casey Conference Center. The present Fort Casey State Park was acquired between 1955 and 1988. In 1963, Washington State Parks obtained 2 10-inch disappearing guns and 2 3-inch guns from Fort Wint in the Philippine Islands. These historic guns, originally part of the harbor defenses at Subic Bay, were mounted for display in batteries Trevor and Worth. If you live in Washington or are visiting our beautiful state, add Fort Casey to your list of places to go. Spend a day exploring, camp at the Fort Casey campsite next to it, visit quaint Coupeville, walk across Deception Pass Bridge, and enjoy the magnificent view of the Olympic Mountains. Thanks for joining me today. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. I hope to see you out there.